This conference will now be recorded.
But yeah, that's a cheapo. And again, I really had rather not make these kits for people. It really burns into my time because I got to put all this stuff together and order it and all that stuff. And we give you all the part. I'd be glad to give you this kit, and like we talked about, one of those quick connectors and a couple of feet of 1/4 inch airline, and boom, you got the same thing. But we still get requests for it, so I'm still going to do it. They're just limited stock because I need to do it in between other things. And yeah, you can get a better quality one. Um, these work. It's but it's totally up to you on that. So
Yeah.
I like these better, except for like we were talking about the way that the 3 pieces connect. But I'll keep looking. That is a little on the cheap side. I was kind of under pressure to get some, so I just got some. So I'm going to try it too before I send them out.
Oh, I don't blame you.
So, all right. Well, I'm glad everybody's on here. Chris, I'm glad you're on here. So Chris is joining our team to help with support and innovation. And I might give him just a minute. I don't mean to put you on the spot. If you'll just kind of introduce yourself and all that, that'd be awesome.
So guys, I'm Chris Myers, joining the Thunder team. I guess some background is I've got my laser. I do 3D printers, do CNCs. Been doing that for 10 or 12 years, just interested in those kinds of hobbies. This is something that sits out in my garage and I make a mess and I enjoy doing it, enjoy tearing stuff apart and fixing it. Electrical engineer by degree. You can see the little Clemson back there. So that's what I do for my day-to-day job. But looking forward to working with Thunder and Brian and the team. And I think you went muted, Brian.
I keep forgetting. Grant's on here too. He's the sales manager. He's listening, but he's playing with the laser at the same time. So I think he's honing his photo skills or something.
Yeah, what's up, everybody?
Hey, man. So, and I see John and probably Joanne is back with us. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good morning, Brian.
There. So
we have some questions on minimum maximum power settings. The minimum and maximum, what's the difference, and why a minimum, why a maximum?
Okay, so it's different if you're vectoring than if you're engraving. So I'll talk about vectoring first because that's a little easier. If the head moves at 10 millimeters per second or slower, whether you tell it to or whether it's just programmed that way because of the motion planning, if it has to navigate a sharp corner or change directions, things like that. If it's moving at 10 millimeters or slower, it's going to use the minimum power setting. And what that's good for is if you're cutting out a square and you notice the corners are starting to get blown out, looks like it's burned a little too much over there, that's an indication that you need to lower your minimum power 10 to 15%, so that it'll ramp down to that lower power as the head slows to make those direction changes. And then it'll ramp back up to maximum power as it speeds up. So typically you'd want to set minimum and maximum the same unless you notice your output in the corners or something like that, don't look good, that have some evidence that you need to do that. But that's what that's for. On the engraving part, if you're doing grayscale, that's how you do the depth map, the 3D and relief engraving. You set your minimum and maximum power, and that's going to be your power threshold from white to black as far as the gradations go. So white will be, whatever. If you put 0 and 100%, white will be 0% power, black will be 100. So that's how that works with engraving. Now that's just for grayscale also, because if you're dithering, the laser's either on or off. So, it's still 8-bit or whatever, just mono. So, typically when you're engraving also, you would set your minimum and maximum power the same, unless you're doing a grayscale image or unless you're doing a 3D relief or something like that.
Okay, I'm curious. We were doing some intricate inside cuttings, and then those were cutting just fine, cutting 100%. But when it did the outline, which was a smoother, longer cut, we didn't get the total, it didn't cut all the way through. Now, that could have been it could have been the material itself that we hit some glue pockets. We were just wondering if that was because of difference in minimum, maximum power or whatever. But
Right.
the intricate cuts inside the design were all falling out doing great. But it's on the outside, the smoother, longer cut, that it didn't. And like I said, didn't know whether that was the power settings that we had or whether it's the material.
Well, if you had your minimum and maximum power set the same, and you're still not cutting through, then you can probably eliminate the minimum power as an issue, because even if you go down to minimum power, you're still going to be firing at the same one. Now, that would lend me to think it would be more like material or something. It would help if we had some imagery of it. If you want to shoot some pictures of the output or where it cut and where it didn't, if you can do that, if you still have it, and email support with it, we can have a look at it, and I'd make a better determination.
Okay. Joanne, do you have any, is it making sense to you? Okay, go ahead.
It's making a little more sense. It's still not 100%, but I do have a question. On the little 80-watt laser parameters sheet that I downloaded, it's
Okay.
showing for most of your material, with the exception of one acrylic, you're showing, one acrylic and craft paper, you're showing the maximum power at 90.
Okay.
Is that true, that almost everything that we would be cutting would be at a maximum power of 90?
I mean, yeah, if those figures were put together by Thunder China in their engineering, so I'm sure that those are really good, solid numbers. But it's not unheard of to go 90% on power, if that's what you mean. You don't have to go that hot. You could always slow down, if you didn't want to run that high. But they're looking for a good happy medium between speed and not getting so close to max. They're trying to find a happy medium there on those figures, and they're all ballpark. There's going to always be some dialing in to do depending on your substrate, and your particular setup and your focus and settings and everything. So
I would set it both at a maximum of 90 and a minimum of 90.
right, if that's what the sheet says. And unless you start seeing problems in corners, I would set minimum to whatever it recommends for the maximum.
Okay, so the only time you would tweak the minimum is when you start to see that something strange is happening in the corners.
Right, and usually it's overburning, because you're still burning at that percentage power, but you've slowed down. So it can char, it can cut, round off corners, real sharp corners, things like that. Just from you'd be able to tell, it's just thermal insult from the beam dwelling there too long at that power.
Okay, and I did have some success cutting cotton fabric back with a fusible web.
Okay.
Had a lot of
fast and hot usually works pretty good for me on textiles.
I'm sorry?
Fast and hot works good for me on textiles. I try to get through it as quickly as possible, so I kick it on up a little bit. So.
On that one, I just used 50% power.
Yeah. Some of it's preference. Some people like to run real hot and try to get as much speed as they can out of it. Some people like to go a little slower. I mean, all of that is relative. And again, those are just baselines, to get you in the ballpark. You'll always have a little bit of dialing in to do, so that the output meets whatever your expectations are. So.
I actually had the best left though at a power of 10%.
I'm sorry?
I had better luck though cutting successfully when the power was between 10 and 20.
On fabric.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whatever works the best for that material, whatever you dial in, that's what you should ultimately go by. But sure.
Anyway, still having fun and impressed with the machine.
Yes. thank
Awesome.
you.
Good. Good. So, I was trying to see Jeremy. Good to see you back on here again. Gene, I see Nicolette. Hey to you. Does anybody else have any questions or input? Hey, Robert, how you, man? So
Good. How you doing, Brian?
good, good.
I got a quick question, Brian. For the S8 Cloudline fan, the inline fan, I was looking at it over the S6 for the 51-130.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the fittings, right? So putting it on the laser, right, going from 6-inch to 8-inch isn't an issue. But looking at exiting the side of my shop, right, I'm struggling to find anything bigger than a 6-inch. Most commonly a 4-inch, but the one you had in the information was a 6-inch at Lowe's. Do you know if people are just you know stepping it up at the laser, running it through 8-inch and then back down 6-inch at the outside, or are they running a 6-inch with just two duct with an 8-inch fan, or?
Yeah, I would assume that most people neck down to 6, and then those are hard to find. I saw something the other day, somebody posted one, and it had the damper in it and everything. It was a spring-loaded damper, but it was an 8-inch, and I'm trying to find that link. I found one that's got a screen in it that's not dampered at Home Depot. Let me pull that one up. But yeah, I think we can find some resources on that. I need to go back and see where I found that other one. It looked like a pretty good one. And it was
Yeah,
8-inch.
because I was looking at that. I wasn't sure how it was going to be, if it was 6-inch right all the way through with an 8-inch fan, if it's going to starve the fan, or I guess ultimately you could run the fan a little bit slower, and
Right.
probably wouldn't be an issue. But I wasn't sure what others were doing on that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I have to make a decision very soon, because I got a call last week to pay my final payment, and so I should be expecting a laser in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. I'll find
Yeah.
that link and get it to you. I'll have to go back through and see where I saw it. It was in a different group. It was in a different laser group, one of the generic groups. But I'll go back and find that, and I'll put it in that knowledge base article too, because that'd be a good thing to have.
Yep.
So cool. Nicolette, do you have anything? Oh, Jeremy, go ahead, man.
I was going to ask one other question. Heard anything else about the fiber?
No, I haven't actually, and I'm waiting. My ears to the ground, I promise.
I got you.
So it looks like a McMaster car has got an 8-inch glass.
McMaster car, you said?
Yeah, it's about $30 for the galvanized, $50 for the stainless.
All right. Thanks, Chris. I'm gonna take a look at that. That's one I've been considering, whether I actually want to do that, or whether I just design me something out of wood and vent it out the window on the side of the shop to save cutting a 8-inch hole that I may have to patch later. Right?
Yeah.
It's that's quite a big hole, right?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I posted up my little window block that I use. It's just a piece of wood that slides in the window with some foam around it and a hole that I 3D printed a duct adapter for, and that's what I use for mine. It's done me well, and it's nice and low too, so I don't have to worry about the head pressure of trying to pump up through.
Push it uphill, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I kind of went nuts and just started knocking holes everywhere in my garage. So 2 for the lasers and 1 for my portable air conditioner. So I just stood around with a sledgehammer and a star chisel for a little while.
Yeah, see, now
Difficult.
in my shop, I've got a mini split downstairs, and then my office is in a little bonus room upstairs. So I got a mini split up here too. So I've already punched the 2 separate sets of holes to run the mini split cables and refrigerant line through. So.
Sweet. So, yeah, I don't have any new news as far as Thunder Laser goes. Everything's still going pretty smooth. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? we're going to have to figure out a programming plan for these things and spice them up a little bit, have some giveaways or something. Hey, Grant, how are you doing over there, man? Do you have any
I'm
words
alive.
of wisdom? So tell us about shipping.
What do you
Yeah.
want to know? What do you want to know?
I'm just messing with you.
You could probably tell me more.
Shoot, I don't know
These
about
companies
that.
are not fun to deal with, but we're getting by.
Yeah.
Just curious, Brian, I got the Chuck rotary the other day, came in the mail, and
Okay.
hooked it up, and that was surprisingly simple to hook up, but it did engrave in reverse. And so I
Okay.
figured, okay, it must be my settings in Lightburn. The reason it's in reverse, I had to mirror it.
Mhm.
Is that typical with the rotary that it would be
If
mirrored?
if you have it sitting 180 degrees the wrong way in the bed of the machine, it would, yes.
Okay. Maybe that makes
I
some
think if
sense.
you flip it, it'll fix it. Yeah.
Something so simple. Okay. Kind of like the
Or-
connector that came with it, no place to plug it in. Okay. Not
Oh,
the rotary, but the chiller.
yeah. Did you get the did you
Power
get the
cord
good
showed
one,
up.
the correct
Yeah,
one?
power cord showed up the other day too.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
Not an issue.
So,
I've just
yeah.
one
Go
quick
ahead.
question. Um,
Mhm.
my laser is supposed to come about a month earlier than I expected, so I'm excited, but now I'm panicking a little bit. Um, how do you know how much the 3580 weighs without the bottom part with the casters? I'm just trying to figure out how much help I need.
I do. And let me pull this up here. I believe that's in dimensions. Let me flip over to the front side so you can see it a little better. So the entire machine, you said a 35100?
3580.
Okay, 3580 is 682 pounds. And
Okay.
the base of it weighs 70 and a half pounds. So just
Okay.
subtract that. Got it.
Okay. Cool.
And
Thank you.
yep, that's on the dimensions page. You can just type in dimensions in the search on the support page and it should come right up.
Great. Thanks.
So, oh, sure, absolutely. So, Gene, how are you doing, man? I'm going to put the spotlight on you.
We're doing pretty good. We're just waiting on the machine to get here, but we're in the process of packing up and moving to a new place. And fortunately, the machine won't be here until after we're in there. But
Gotcha.
we're just hanging out waiting.
Yeah, that's the hardest
We'll learn
part.
everything I can.
So, all right. Looks like Rotoboss has an empty chair today. That's fun. Well, like I said, I don't really have anything in the queue to talk about or anything. Normally, it's just kind of a round table. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions. I'll be happy to discuss them.
How about a light burn question?
Sure.
One of the things that's driving me absolutely nuts, and I don't know why it does this, but I always use black as my cut layer for my final cut. And I can work on a file and, make adjustments and stuff, but I always forget that last step to check and make sure that black is my last layer, my bottom layer. And somehow it gets moved up in the middle or towards the top of my layers, and it tries to cut first before it does my engraving or my lines and stuff like that. And I've messed up more projects with that than anything.
So So you mean like you have something like your text black and then you want to cut around it? You're going to make that a different color? You talking about the
Right.
order of operations?
Exactly. I guess what I wanted to find out is there a way that you can tell one of those layers to always be the bottom layer? I mean, I know like the tool layers, they're always set to where they won't output.
Right.
But I haven't
So,
figured a way to always make one color or any color always the bottom layer or something.
well, I mean, you can change your order of operations with the arrows, and move your layers around here. Is that what you mean?
Well, no. I mean, I understand. I mean, moving them around and up and down and like that. But for some reason, I might have 3 or 4. I'll have a line, a cut, and an engrave on one project.
Okay.
And when I initially set them up, I always have the line and I move it down to the bottom, my
Okay.
cut. But somehow during the editing of the file, it somehow moves higher up in the thing, and I'll go to cut it thinking that, well, it should be at the bottom, and then I'll forget to check it.
Mhm.
And then I'm blowing a piece of wood. I got to start
Yeah.
all over and come back.
If yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the cause of that may be. Of course, typically I'll run preview and hit play real quick before, to make sure it's going to do stuff in the right order, so that I don't miss anything. But I'm not sure why those would change automatically or at random.
So what might be
I'm not
happening?
sure if it's not something I'm doing. I forget to go back and check that final step. Is my issue.
Now, when you save a file like this, if you open it back up, it's going to retain these settings. If you make a new file now, I think it'll kind of keep these. But if you open a file that you had this set differently, it's going to pull those in unless you import. If you import, none of those settings come in, just the artwork does. Chris may have some insight on that.
So
right. Well,
what,
one of the things I have been doing is also going in and setting the defaults on some of my colors, because I use the colors for specific, specific things.
So what might be happening, what I've seen is if you're copy pasting from one Lightburn file to the next, like if you've got two open, when you paste something in, that messes with your layer order. So I've gotten caught by the same thing. You do a nice engrave and you want to cut out the outline last. You got to make sure that, black layer, green layer, whatever you use is the last one. So I often will copy paste stuff and then have to check my layers. One thing you could try just for your own use is rename your layer to call like last layer. So at least if you visually look at it, you know what it should be. Monitor when you copy paste, and then this may help out if you use layer 29 and just make that always your cut layer for your final outline and use that for only that. And I don't know if Lightburn would automatically paste that in layer 29 at the bottom, but I know like whenever I paste stuff in, layers come in and they get all screwed up and I have to reorganize them. Another tidbit that some people may find interesting, if you're using an external air compressor, set your lines up between cut lines and engraved lines so that your air compressor has time to catch up and fill the tank up. If you're using a small compressor that can't keep up with the CFM, because whenever we do cuts at upwards 40 psi, they're going to consume a lot of CFM. So there's some fun in doing that too, to where your compressor is not running full tilt, because if your compressor can't keep up, then your air pressure in the system is going to go down, and your cuts aren't going to be as good. So that could be some people's cutting with the external compressors. Try using layer 29 and then watch when you copy paste. Then
I'll try that.
Layer 2, because that gives you a good visual. And then like Brian said, hitting the play button, that works out real nice, because plenty of times I'm having to stop a job because it's cutting out and there's other things left to do on the wood.
Hey,
That
Brian,
makes sense.
I'm curious what the cut order priority does in the shape properties tab, if you would be able to approach it that way as well.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, there is a cut order priority in the shapes. Sets the priority of the shape when used with order by priority in the optimization settings. And that is second in the list by default. Order by layer is first in the list of rules. So I think that would supersede order by priority. You could always move it to the top in the optimization settings, or remove order by layer, switch, change the group. But yeah, I never even thought about, I've seen it in there, but it's like I said, I run my laser an hour a week. I don't make a lot of stuff, so I don't get to play with some of this stuff sometimes. Let's continue to upload these to YouTube. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, I saw that message. Yeah, I'm gonna upload all the videos. One of them got corrupted, but I'm gonna get those uploaded, all the last few ones of these webinars, and I'll get this one up as well. You're welcome. Okay, I got a question, and it's not thunder related, but there's enough people in this group that can help me answer the question. I've been printing these 20 millimeter calibration cubes for days. I have a trash can full of them, and I cannot get it dead on. Is it possible? It's a CR10 V2. I rebuilt the whole hot end. I got BL Touch on it, Titan Direct Drive, and I'm getting 20.15 on X. But here's the problem. I'm putting all three values in and changing the steps at the same time. Do I need to change X and then print a new cube and measure Y and then calibrate Y and then print another cube? Because I'm printing one cube and calibrating all three axes at the same time. And I'm thinking that may be throwing the build off. So if I change one at a time, it'll eliminate that. Does that make sense?
You know what I found the best way to solve that is?
How's that?
Prusa i3.
Oh,
So that being said, I've not bought it yet. I got an early CR10 S5, right? I all but gave up on,
Yeah.
just because unless you're printing extremely slow, because it's a 20 inch by 20 inch by 20 inch build volume. So if you're not printing extremely slow, you get ringing as it gets taller because you're accelerating so much mass with that glass bed on it. Ended up going to an Ender 3. With the Ender, I'm under a tenth of a millimeter. I don't think I was getting it like 20.07 or something. I was happy with. I didn't tweak it any more than that. Are you in any of the Facebook groups for the CR10 users?
Yeah, a few. The V2 user, a couple of those groups. I think it's got I forget which hot end is on it. But yeah, I'm on a few, and I've had 3 or 4 of these things at different times, but I've never had to do any of that stuff to them, or I never bothered to check because I never print anything. It's kind of like my laser.
I was going to say, you have this problem with getting hobbies that you never actually do, right?
Right. I don't have enough time.
Yeah,
but
that's because you got too many hobbies you don't do, bro.
Well, my hobbies are the machines, so
Yeah,
really, I guess that's the way it goes.
So you just printed that one earlier because your printer was running.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was running it. I had to change the startup code because it wasn't heating the bed before it was bed leveling, and it was throwing it off. So I was giving it a test run.
Have you heard the name Fluke Hatfield?
No.
He's got a YouTube channel that's golden that people always reference. But yeah, get your E-steps right, because if you're ever extruding or doing elephant foot, you're never going to get your 20 point whatever.
Yeah, I did my extrusion first. I calibrated the extruder very first thing, so it's good.
And when you calibrated it, so when you think that you're sending, say, 10 millimeters through the nozzle, you've measured it, it's sending 10. Okay.
Right. So yeah, I'll tinker with that. But I guess we would.
What slicer are you using? Are you on Creality? Have you tried?
Well, I'm using Slicer and sending it straight to the Octoprint from there.
Okay. Have you tried it direct? So what I've seen with people trying to get, we'll say, a very finite accuracy, right,
Mhm.
is Octoprint having issues or delays in it before.
Right.
And then the other one I've seen is slicers, where
Yeah.
they just don't convert units exact, right? So
Right.
try it with Cura, try it with Prusa Slicer, or if you got Simplify 3D, try it there as well. But
Yeah.
you see some of the comparisons, the exact same file, right? The sliced and sent from different ones get different results.
Yeah, and I'm going to try that. Again, I just like playing, but yeah, I'll try that and see. But that does make perfect sense. I need to go straight from the PC using whatever it came with first and eliminate all those as variables. So anyway, all right. Well, does anybody else have any laser questions? Sorry, I got you off track a little bit.
I got one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I got the 24 yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
the door on the right side, the upper door, does not
Mm-hmm.
appear to want to open. Is there a trick to that?
Yep, there's a Allen head screw on the inside. You have to get to it from the inside, and it's for shipping and safety purposes. And you can remove the screws, and it'll work just fine.
Is any of the other doors have that as well?
I think the left side top door does as well. I think it's secured for shipping as well,
Okay,
just
my
in
left-
case the locks don't engage, so they don't
Okay.
flap around. Mhm.
All right. Thanks.
Sure.
Didn't even need a grinder.
Now, I saw someone use a really big screwdriver as a pry bar on one once, though.
I got a light burn question here. So I've got light burn with the Garble controller for one of the desktop lasers, right? So I've got it, and then I've got my new license for the Ruida controllers. Is there going to be any issues if I've created files in one versus the other? Do anyone know? Anyone done that? Or
Well, I've still got some from my K40 days. I've still got some Lightburn files that I've pulled up and run on my Nova. So I don't think there's any problem.
okay, so
'cause I
as
had a
long as I'm
cohesive
obviously
3D.
not trying to use the PC to send it through that version, right? Then it
Right.
should be
Well, I
fine.
mean, yeah, you can have multiple devices on there. I've run my Cohesion Smoothies
Okay.
and my DSPs on the same one. So, I mean, yeah, it should work. It should work smoothly.
Okay.
So,
And then one other thing, kind of similar, Mac versus PC. If I got a file created in Lightburn on a Mac, any issues with it on PC?
I don't think so.
Okay,
No.
because I use a MacBook Pro a lot of times, but for where the laser's going in my shop, instead of bringing a laptop down, I bought one of the little Lenovo sealed micro PCs. I'm just going to mount to the back of the laser and then use that to connect. And so I can either just put it on the network or a thumb drive, bring the file down. So I want to look is going from one license to the other, or one PC, Mac to a PC, or vice versa.
Yeah, the way Oz wrote that code, I think it has nothing to do with it. It's not dependent on an OS at all. So it should be flawless, seamless across multiple platforms. I've tried it on Linux too, and it's fine. So it should switch around.
Yeah, that's actually what I.
Between Mac and PC all the time, and have never had a problem.
Good. That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
the biggest issue I have is designing in one and remembering shortcut keys and stuff back and forth, and just the keystrokes is his biggest issue. But that's not a Lightburn issue. That's just a switching between OS's issue.
Yeah, only reason I have a PC is my CNC software requires Windows. So
Which CNC do you have?
I made my own.
Okay.
Built my own.
Which software are you using for it?
Mach 3, and then
Okay, Mach 3.
VCarve Pro.
Okay. That's probably the only use I'm gonna have out of my CNC anymore is for V-carving, I think.
All right. Well, awkward silence.
Hey, any update on the fiber?
No, I wish there
You
was.
missed that one already. Awesome.
Yeah,
I think we should keep account of how many people ask about it, Brian, and keep sending that to the sales team and try to push them to get it.
I'm not certain I'd know how to manage that. Maybe somebody should start a page or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Page for what? We already have a Thunder. What else do we
Yeah.
need? Unless it's a
Hey,
different brand.
hey, I wonder when the Thunder Fiber's coming page. No, you don't do that. That's probably not a good idea.
I'm still working on creating web pages enough, so I'm not gonna volunteer to create any other ones.
So, all right. Oh, it looks like Verena popped in. Hey, good to see you on here too. I think Grant's been monitoring.
Hello.
So, yeah, I guess the topics are a little short tonight. I could ask him the same question I asked Grant when he came on. We could discuss shipping for the next 20 minutes if you wanted to.
Just something
What'd you
on
say?
I was just messing with her. That the logistics seems to be the pain point
Oh
of,
yeah, that's
of,
the one
of
thing
everything. So,
that gives me headaches and heartaches every single day. But it's something that I'm not really in control of. But at least our logistics team at ATA in LA is on top of everything. So anytime a bump in the road comes about, we get over it for sure.
mhm.
Yeah.
on the external air, Brian, 40 psi is what's recommended. That's true, correct?
That is what came down from engineering about a
Okay.
month ago. Yes.
Okay, and are we looking at for sitting pressure at when nothing's running to have 40 psi on it, or actually
Yeah.
when you're doing a
Yeah.
cut?
Max. Yeah. I wouldn't measure it while it's flowing. So
So,
yeah,
so max
the
sitting.
pressure on the solenoids. Yeah, the pressure on the solenoids. It makes detents in the seats or in the valves. Where it presses into the seat if you use too much pressure, and it can cause premature failure of that seal.
Okay.
So
Now put an extra gauge on the line going to the head, which is basically that's a worthless gauge because with the line being open, uh, you can't tell what kind of pressure you've got on it. I've got 40 going to the machine, but actually when the air is spewing out of the head, it's only looking like on 20 on that line.
well, yeah, and see, I put mine not at the head, but right there where it wise back in after the needle valves, right, right as it's leaving, they come back together to go out to the nozzle, and I connected mine right there. But here's the thing: what gauge do you have? Do you have
That's
that one with the batteries that has the armored case around it, the digital one?
nope. It's just
Okay.
just a pressure gauge, just a manual.
Okay.
Zero. And one of the issues is, of course, it's 0 to 160, I think, so it's not very accurate. But when you've got it on, actually have it uh, on the low pressure side, you can hear it coming out the nozzle, and I mean, just barely registers on the gauge because it's.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a
See,
digital gauge, so it's a manual gauge.
yeah. See, I've got mine plumbed in right there, right after the needle valves. This hose right here goes to the gantry, um, and I've tied in right there.
Yep, that's exactly where I put it in mine.
But the trick is I've got this one with a pretty high resolution on it, so I can read down to 0.1 or whatever. So yeah, I can see where that might be an issue for that analog gauge.
Yeah,
And you can pick one of these up. You can pick one of these up. This particular one is like $70. It's an SMC, but Amazon has a very similar one, and they're about $30. And these are pressure. You can set a minimum pressure on here also, and if it goes below that minimum pressure, this display will turn red, and it's even got a relay in it, a contactor. You can send it over to the laser power supply so that the laser won't fire if there's no air.
Okay. I set the engrave air down. I had to take some of the the puppy's tail feathers and kind of hold under it while I adjusted it, just so I could barely see a wisp of air coming out of the nozzle.
Mhm. So
But anyway,
get rid of that. I'm going to put some information up about that air meter that I found too, and where to connect it and all that stuff. I'll put a little document together. That's in the works, in case anybody wants to have that. A couple people have put one on. So, and it doesn't really matter what you use. Ultimately, you just need a way to quantify it. So this is a pretty good little meter though, especially with that trigger if you want to have it not fire if it goes below a certain pressure. And I don't have mine hooked up that way. But
Hey, Chris, you mentioned something on cutting versus engraving and your air pressure. So that's something I hadn't quite thought about. But obviously, if you're going to be doing a lot more cutting or larger cuts, right? So I bought the 51 130 and plan on cutting, thicker MDF and plywood, and larger cuts, which changes my thoughts on a compressor, specifically to get a larger volume compressor, right? So, and I was looking at getting one of the California, the 8010s, but I'm thinking that's probably going to deplete that tank pretty quick on large cuts. And then you're going to be struggling to keep up with the CFM for a cut.
Yeah, so when you start looking at compressors, you got to look at CFM, and if you want quiet, there's your budget's got to get bigger. But that's
Yeah,
one of
exactly.
the people who rate them in like 90 psi, and I think a lot of times they even rate them down like 40 psi, what the CFM can be. And then they also have a duty cycle. Some of them are like 70%, some of them are continuous duty. So you just got to pick and choose what you're going to do. But yeah, what I was saying is, when I'm cutting at 40 psi, typically you're going slow speed, so those cut layers are much, much longer.
Yeah.
And the consumption vary. But I've done some big engraves too on some 24-inch that are, an hour long, but it's just a wisp of air coming out of that thing. But I'll stage, between cutting and engraving to give my compressor some time to catch up, because I went with the smaller, quieter Holt brand, and it lets me not have to wear earplugs in my garage, but it's only rated for like 2 or 3 CFM at 40 psi. So, but it keeps up. It fills the tank up and cycles.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking whether I should look at buying like a larger, 20, 30, 50 gallon tank. I've been looking at putting a compressor system in the shop anyways. And just plumbing it in the shop there versus buying a dedicated compressor for it, because I've got a couple of pancakes that I use, now. But whether I'd bite the bullet and just buy a larger compressor, then I wouldn't have an issue with the volume keeping up.
So the only thing I'd say about, a bigger tank is great, but when that buffer tank runs out, right? So if you're going to exceed the CFM of the tank and you're going to run out that 20 gallons for one of your long cuts, if you can't pump that tank back up, then your compressor is just going to run and it's going to exceed possibly its duty cycle. So I would look, in the stats, look for the CFM that you need. And then if you find that brand, find a tank that is adequate size for what you think you're going to need, for cycling and everything. But, every time you have to fill that tank up, that's just more volume to get your pressure going. But 40 psi is low. But, I'm not going to get myself an 80-gallon tank, because that's just going to take up space in my garage. I want to.
just get you a rotary screw. That ought to handle it pretty good.
Yeah, I looked at some of those. I was looking at some auctions as well, trying to find some industrial 3-phase stuff for a bargain. I actually
Caliair does have some continuous duty rated ultra quiet systems too that are pretty suitable for some of that.
Okay.
They're a little pricey, but yeah. They're like medical grade, like for dentist office and stuff. They use them in those kinds of places. You could also go down that route, look for some of those things. I've got an old dental kit, one of those gassed air pumps out of something somebody was throwing away at a doctor's office one day. It had a pump in it and everything. So
okay.
Yeah, somebody posted one up. I want to say the compressor coil is green for that brand. but they had, decent budget. I want to say under $1,000 for a decent sized compressor with low dB and high CFM and 100% duty cycle. I can't remember that brand, but I just bought mine, and then that guy posted it, and had I not already had mine, I would have probably gotten the one that he posted. I'll see if I can find that one.
All right.
I was looking for that filter. Do you guys remember that? It was a couple sessions ago, and we pulled it up and looked at it. It was that charcoal. It was that filter, the exhaust thing. It was a big sucker. It was Atlas or something like that. I can't remember what it was. I tried to go back and look through the transcription of the last few sessions, and I can't find it. It's just a big round, looks like a carbon filter, and you just exhaust your machine into it. I'm trying to think of what that was. Anyway, it was weird. I wanted to look at it because it was like, looked really industrial, and somebody was asking about how to, mitigate some of the odor and stuff, and it looked like a good thing. Instead of buying one of those little $100 ones from AC Infinity or Cloudline or whoever, those kinds of pot growing filters, this is like a huge heavy duty one. It has like an 8-inch inlet or something like that, and it sits on the ground. Looks like a big propane heater that you'd heat your patio with, actually. It's kind of crazy looking. Awesome. Just sent. How do I get into the chats on this thing? Oh, I need to quit sharing my screen.
So the other brand of compressor was Flexzilla, Flexzilla. It's kind of
Okay,
like
the people that, yeah, they make the cord reels and air hose and stuff, the auto retracting air hose. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I clicked on that link and it says, sorry, this content isn't available right now. That Facebook link you just posted.
Oh, you might not be a member of that group. Let me see if I can figure out another way.
Yep, so
Stand by.
Flexzilla. Yeah, it's that
Give us the
neon
name
green
of that
color.
compressor again, Chris.
What's that?
Can you repeat the name of that compressor again?
Yep, Flexzilla. So Flexzilla. Almost like Godzilla, but Flex.
Yep, I just stuck it in the chat there.
Okay,
Yep.
got it. Thank you.
There you
Yep, and their air hose kits are actually really nice. Same with some of their cord reels.
I put a link to that one in the page. That'll get you. Oh, okay. Jeremy put the name in there too. Okay.
There you go. Yeah, so they have whatever budget you want to spend. They had some sub $1,000 that seemed to be pretty good as well. It's all that balance between if you want a quiet one, you want size and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Hey, you don't get cheap and quiet and capable, right? You pick two of them.
All right, I posted again. This time just straight to the Amazon page. Don't worry, I don't have affiliates, so I'm not gonna get anybody.
Yeah,
that's the charcoal.
The thing I'm talking about is huge. No, it's like 3 feet in diameter. It's a big, huge thing. It looks like an extractor. I don't know if it's powered or not, but no, it's man, it's gonna kill me until I find it. I'll look back through my history tonight and see if I can find it. But that's one option. Yeah, I haven't ever tried one of those though.
Yeah, the only thing I'd caution on something like that is if you're creating restriction in the line, so your CFMs will likely drop, especially if you're using one of those Infinity fans. They don't draw a lot of current. They probably don't do very well with back pressure.
I gotta find it. It's gonna drive me insane until I find it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll find it and post it though. Anyway, well, does anybody have anything else? my brain is fried after thinking about that thing. I've gotten all sidetracked on trying to find that filter now. I guess. Go ahead,
Was
Jeremy.
it a tube or was it like a box?
It's hard to explain. I just need to find it.
There's the BOFA. Is that what you're talking about? I just put a link.
No, it's not a, we've been talking to BOFA, and it's, it's not any kind of standard looking extractor. I'm just gonna have to go back and watch those videos until I find it. But I gotta find it. But no, it's got sensors in it and all kinds of things. It's not just a filter.
Okay.
It's a complete solution.
Hey, Brian,
Yeah.
do you recommend one of those inline filters? If it's inside an air conditioned shop, do you need a filter, or is that something you really got to have?
I don't believe in filters personally. I just keep my fan clean.
I understand.
But I don't generate a lot of smoke either. Some guys that are cutting 6 hours a day, 6 days a week may think different about that.
Okay.
But I don't have any real good, solid, experience on them to be able to have an opinion really, because I've never put any filtration or extraction systems on any of my stuff. I've tinkered with them a little bit, but not in a real world setting. All right. Well, I guess unless anybody has any last minute things, I'll hit the button on this and start getting these things uploaded. And that'll give me time to find this filter I'm looking for. So I guess I'll catch you guys next time.
All right. See you later.
All right. All right, man. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.